All right, I think I'm live. I think it worked. I haven't streamed in a while. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for waiting so patiently. Some of you have been here for like half an hour. It is fantasy rankings release day. Big day on the channel every single year. I got my buddies Josh and Hayden here, fantasy experts in their own right. I've gone on their show a million times at this point, and so I thought I should have them with me now because I'm going to need a lot of help tonight. I'm doing drafts with you guys, so I need the help looking at chat. I need Josh in my ear telling me when and where to draft Terrace Marshall 3 rounds early.
Yes.
It's going to be a big show. It's going to be a big show. Before we get into anything, though, got some headlines that we were kind of talking about pre-show, and then we wanted to save it. Rashad Bateman seems like a grade 2 groin, which is usually not a good thing for receivers, period, let alone receivers in their first training camp ever. And then Lamar Jackson had been out for like the first 10 days as well. So it's safe to assume that I don't think that they've even thrown a pass together, at least more than 5 passes together, like the entire like last month.
Yep.
Does this affect how you see either of them in terms of rankings? Because it certainly affects mine.
Yeah, it's one where, and you and I were talking about this, Brett, that during preseason, we're so excited just to watch these rookies that you see them on the field, and especially when it was a priority player in a priority position like Rashad Bateman. I mean, I was heavily invested at wide receiver 51, where he's going on Underdog right now, because Hayden and I thought that it was an outside shot, and maybe more than likely he was going to lead that team in receiving, kind of unlock what they wanted to do with like outside to inside, to the point where I had Lamar Jackson as my quarterback 2 overall, which is like pretty far ahead of ADP.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I mean, but we're only 1 year removed for him being, like the top overall scorer in fantasy football. So I thought like this could be that bump, because when you talk about Lamar Jackson, like the 2 different seasons, his MVP season versus last year, it wasn't rushing. It wasn't, throws against pressure. It was all clean pocket situations where he was just worse. He was just absolutely worse there. And I just thought that this would be like the element, Hayden, that would allow him to take that step forward.
It was not only just like Rashad Bateman being so good on like intermediate stuff, and like I thought he was going to be the X receiver, 3rd and 6, who's running that slant route to get the first down, it would be Rashad Bateman. But it also has this ripple down effect where I think it puts Marquise Brown in a position where he's actually good at. When I was watching Marquise Brown last year, I thought he was pretty inconsistent. It didn't seem like he can be a number 1 receiver, but you put Marquise Brown as a number 2 downfield shots only. I thought he was going to be more efficient, and it was just going to like have all these ripple effects across the board. So if Rashad Bateman is going to miss all of preseason, maybe miss the first couple games of the regular season, I think it's justified to move Lamar Jackson down a couple spots.
Yeah.
But I don't want to undersell how good I think Rashad Bateman could be. Like, I hope he stays healthy, because I thought he was going to be really, really good this year.
Brett, when you watched him prior to the NFL draft, what did you see? What type of player did you see?
I mean, I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson, but you saw a lot of the same things that you saw from Justin Jefferson at LSU in terms of ability to get off press, just excellent kind of instincts and nuance to his route running. Like, it wasn't just, I'm going to pitter patter my feet and then break one direction. Like, he would sell with head fakes. Like, he would, really play with DBs in terms of how he would stem his route, just abuse the shit out of leverage. Just a very, very gifted route runner. And then when you find out that, he had that kind of season, even though he got COVID and lost, it was like 15 pounds or something crazy like that. He was dealing with it all year. And, people were wondering, it's like, he had kind of a down year compared to the year before that. And it's like, well, he still was pretty good, but he was pretty good through COVID. I thought he was just a phenomenal prospect. He was kind of the guy that I was penciling in with the Ravens basically all draft season. Like, it got to a point.
I missed that one, Brett. I got to be honest. I missed that one. So,
okay, we need to talk about this. Because you had like statistically the most accurate mock draft ever.
I had to lead off with it. Yeah.
In terms of like how many picks you got right. You got fucking Zaven Collins to Arizona correct.
And Jamin Davis to Washington. Yeah.
But not Rashad Bateman, the one pick that everybody had.
No, 16 of 32. Just kind of lucked into it. These things happen. I do want to say just quickly on Bateman. He's being drafted again at wide receiver 51. on Underdog. I know I had him at wide receiver 44. Probably will keep that. I don't want to react too much right now until we know more information. Hayden had him at wide receiver 47. I'm not sure where you had him, Brett, but like if he even gets to ADP, I'm not saying like wait until like he drops further than that. I still think like now his ADP is like pretty good value if you even bake in this injury.
I had him at wide receiver 38.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Way high. But he was I had like 8th round value on him. And keep in mind, like when I do my position rankings, which by the way, for everybody watching this right now, my position rankings just got released on Patreon today for PPR format. If you go down the link below, you'll find a link to those on Patreon. In terms of what they cost, I just pay whatever you think is fair. Like you want to get them for $1, get them for $1. You want to give me $100, fine, whatever you think is fair, just pay that. But if you only want to pay $1, that's cool too. So I just released the PPR rankings today. I had him as an 8th round value because I kind of organize everything by round. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm running to draft him in the 8th round. That just means like that's the first round that I kind of feel comfortable. If I have nothing else available, I'll be like, okay, I'll throw Rashad Bateman in there. He was in my Jarvis Landry, Devonta Smith, Bryan Edwards, which is another one I'm way higher on than everybody else. Laviska Shenault and Michael Pittman Jr. tier.
I love this.
It's a weird tier.
You break our bubble, Brett. This is great because all offseason, these ADPs get set and you're like, nah, Bryan Edwards and Laviska Shenault are in the same ADP range, which I'm so glad we get to do some drafts in a little bit because this is going to have some really funky outcomes.
I looked it up on Underdog. Bryan Edwards is like wide receiver 61 or something like that on Underdog, and I have him as wide receiver 36.
Yeah, this is gonna be so much fun.
Brett, sell me on this. Why do you have this? I know he's going to be the X receiver. I thought his tape coming out of college was pretty good, and he has the athletic profile that we're looking for. Is there anything beyond that?
He fits Derek Carr to a T. He is so much what Derek Carr loves in a receiver in terms of just having that big physical, jump ball guy. Because Derek's good. I like Derek. And I'm actually doing a video on this. I'm going to release it tomorrow, like a filmer episode on this tomorrow. It's not that Derek isn't aggressive. It's more so that he gets aggressive with guys that can make him right. With guys that it's not a 50-50 ball. It's more like a 70-30 ball. When he trusts a guy to go up and get it, he'll take a shot. Like say Darren Waller, or when he was in college, he had Devontae Adams. Like if he trusts a dude, he'll be really aggressive. And I feel like, Bryan Edwards is that kind of big body, catch radius, win the jump ball kind of guy. Not to mention the fact that he's also a really good route runner and a good blocker and everything like that. But he's that kind of guy that I feel like Derek would actually trust and be more aggressive with. Like Ruggs is great. Ruggs absolutely has a role to play in that offense. But I feel like, Ruggs is more like the guy where he's running the big post on the backside as the alert, and you might hit it every once in a while. Whereas Bryan Edwards is like, I'm getting single high man. It's automatic fade. I'm going to throw it up on like 2nd and 9 and go take my shot. I think he's going to get more opportunities deep down the field than Ruggs, even though he's not as fast as Ruggs, just because he's the kind of guy that Derek Carr favors.
Interesting. Yeah, he's going as wide receiver 67. I'm used to hosting.
67.
I'm used to hosting here, Brett. Can I call it a super chat from Jay Will? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go for it.
Because he's still talking about the Ravens. Sammy Watkins having a good camp, but Hollywood, Bateman, and Boykin have all been hurt in camp so far. Hayden, I see all those names. And if Rashad Bateman misses some time, Mark Andrews as like the tight end 5, that might lock him in for that spot because it's really debatable after the top 4 tight ends.
Yeah, he and Hawkinson, I keep going back and forth who I like more. I think that Hawkinson has bankable volume. Mark Andrews has higher touchdown percentages. So we'll see. I think that Sammy Watkins is having a good camp. You can't trust Sammy Watkins, but he's made a couple comments this offseason talking about how with the Chiefs, he was trying to do everything to get Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill open. And now he's kind of running more routes that'll be in favor of him being the number 1 target. So we'll see. Sammy Watkins is basically free in drafts. You're not banking on him, but I think that we should be moving him up as Hollywood and Bateman this time.
Dare I say that Sammy Watkins might be better in best ball, Hayden, because it's not necessarily a player that we have to predict based on the opponent or the matchup when he's going to have a good week. Because as everyone hopefully out there knows, that in best ball, your spiked weeks get selected, your optimal lineup gets selected each and every week. That's what we do on Underdog. So like if Sammy Watkins randomly goes for 60 yards and a touchdown, 80 yards and a touchdown 2 or 3 times this season, getting him at wide receiver 74, I think I'm seeing right now, that's absolutely going to be a usable week in, around 16, 17, 18 area.
And Josh, I mean, Sammy Watkins
fear, though.
Sorry, say that again, Brett.
Here's my fear, though, because you're absolutely correct. If you're getting that at wide receiver 74, specifically in best ball, yeah, that's great. My fear is that with Bateman's injury, people are going to push Watkins up because they're gonna fall into that trap of like, well, somebody's going to have to catch passes, and it's like, you're not wrong, but don't bump up Sammy Watkins just because Rashad Bateman got injured.
Yeah.
If you're going to bump up anybody, bump up Mark Andrews or bump up the running backs, because year after year, we've been doing this for like 8 years now. We fall into this Sammy Watkins trap where we're like, this is the year we can trust him. And it never works. It never works.
I mean, but can you imagine week 1? I mean, Sammy Watkins is the week 1 monster. And if Rashad Bateman's not going to be healthy for week 1, I mean, you can pencil in Sammy Watkins for like 40 fantasy points week 1.
Oh God, you're falling into the trap. I fell into the trap too. When Tyreek got hurt, I was thinking like, oh, it's Watkins' show. It's like, no, DeMarcus Robinson. Okay. that's what's happening here. Oh God. I understand it. I'm just cautioning people that we've seen Sammy Watkins in the league long enough to know what's going to happen here.
What else has caught your eye this preseason so far, Brett?
From what I've heard from people at Dolphins camp, Jalen Waddle, like they're building the offense around him.
Love it.
Like, yeah, Gaskin's great. Will Fuller's going to be there coming off suspension. Gesicki's cool. But like from what I've heard at Dolphins camp, the offense is Jalen Waddle and a bunch of other dudes. And draft him. Just draft him. Doesn't even matter where. Just draft him.
You probably saw the same thing when you watched him at Alabama. I know he had some injuries and that type of stuff and some really good wide receivers that surrounded him. But he just moved differently. Like with the ball in his hands and his routes. Just like the game slowed down for him. And he was able to like create separation, sustain it, and then, win contested down the field, and then also just pick up yards on his own. I mean, there's a reason why they target him at, the number 6 overall selection. I personally love Will Fuller, but we haven't seen Will Fuller practice since, the first time these teams touched the field. He's going all the way down at wide receiver 43. Hayden, where am I trying to find? Jalen Waddle's at wide receiver 47, so it's even deeper than that. I think that with this Dolphins team, it left like a sour taste in our mouth. But Brett, based on what you're saying and what we're seeing and what they invested in it, it's just going to feel totally different because it was just surrounded by a whole bunch of scrubs trying to catch the football from Tua last year.
And from what I've heard, it's basically he is in motion every single play. He's being used the exact same way that Casey uses Tyreek Hill, where every single week it's going to be a game of find my bitch. It's whoever the worst DB on the other team is.
The magnifying glass?
Yeah, it's like that's the dude.
Yeah.
He's going to get jet sweeps. He's going to get return duty. Like everything that I've heard is this dude is absolutely unreal. I've got him as a 7th round value right now. Like wide receiver 32, I think. So
I need to figure out who you're dropping down the list if all these guys are climbing up the list.
I got Michael Thomas, 10th round value. He's going way too early still, in my opinion. Like, I think people are drafting him off name right now and not looking at the situation of like, A, he's hurt. B, he might have Taysom Hill as his quarterback. I don't know. I like Marquez Callaway, but I have Marquez Callaway like 7 spots behind Michael Thomas. Yeah. That's like the situation we're in right now. I got Nelson Aguilar as a 10th round value. Jalen Reagor I got way down there. Curtis Samuel because of his injury I got way down there. So like I think it's a groin with him too. Actually,
it is.
Yep.
So these
he hasn't
soft tissue
practiced since
injuries,
June
man.
2nd. June 2nd, he hasn't practiced since. That's a long time.
I know. At least he knows the offense.
Hayden, how about this one? How high would you take T. Higgins? Because he's another second-year wide receiver that a lot of people in our football bubble are really excited about.
Well, I thought T. Higgins looked awesome last year, and I think that he's going to be really good. Just kind of what are we projecting for the Bengals? Because I think the Bengals, out of like any passing offense this year, they might have like the widest range of outcomes, because if they throttle things down with Joe Burrow coming back from ACL and MCL tears, then it's going to be hard for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon to all pay off ADP. So you really have to pick your poison here, unless you think the Bengals are just going to say, screw it. Joe Burrow, we don't care that you're only 9 months removed. We don't care that you're behind one of the worst offensive lines. We're still going to make you throw the ball 50 times. So I don't think that they're going to be as aggressive as they were last year, just because he's now dealing with this ACL injury. So T. Higgins, he's a player that I want to draft, but he's being drafted like wide receiver 24, 25 right now. And I can see it going both ways. I'm probably barely out, but I could regret this.
I think I'm gonna have him at wide receiver 29 right now. And then I have Jamar like a round ahead of him. But those two, I think, are going to go in like wildly different directions. And that's part of the reason why I'm thankful we have preseason, is because unlike last year, we can actually kind of just see how stuff is functioning for a few weeks. And we can look at the whole depth chart stuff. Like, I don't really feel like depth chart matters in preseason, but just being able to see how an offense functions, being able to see how these guys move. It's very valuable information. Like last year, I feel like if we got to see Justin Herbert play in the preseason, maybe we would have like been able to see what was coming down the road there. If we saw Justin Jefferson or Chase Claypool play in the preseason, we might have been able to see that stuff coming. You mentioned James Robinson. If we got to see James Robinson play with the starters for a few weeks, maybe he would have actually been drafted in some fantasy leagues. So I feel like, unlike last year, being able to see Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, I doubt Burrow's going to play in the preseason, but like being able to see them on the field is going to be valuable. And I might move one of them way up. I might move one of them way down. I might move both of them way down. But either way, the rankings are going to change.
I'm a little nervous at Joe Burrow going as quarterback 11, because that's after, to me, proven players in Ryan Tannehill, in Matthew Stafford, who's going as quarterback 14. I'm just nervous that this team is being treated like a proven offense on a good team that's going to win a lot of games, because they're kind of right there being drafted as like the AFC North version of the Dallas Cowboys. And while I want some stock in it, and I'm probably going to be like Brett and adjust Jamar Chase and T. Higgins based on how some things unfold, I'm kind of into Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 37, but that's not a lot of ceiling juice that I'm getting there from Tyler Boyd at that spot. Just
well, let me ask you this: for both of you, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow.
I'm on Joe Burrow. Hayden and I have our quarterback show tomorrow on the Underdog Football Show, and I'm so down on Hurts based on where he's going right now. What about you, Hayden?
I just purely for fantasy ceiling, I'll go Jalen Hurts, but this is a very, very fragile projection. I mean, a Deshaun Watson trade, I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. If the Eagles just want to go full tank, I don't know. But the one thing is Jalen Hurts' rushing upside so evident that I think every single week he is starting, he's going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback in my weekly rankings. So I can only drop him so far. I think it's a position where, let's say Jalen Hurts gives you 8 good weeks and then he gets benched or something, you can at least just go find another quarterback. I think it's one of the easier positions to just go find a second guy. So I think I'm willing to take on a lot of that risk.
What about you, Brett? Who do you have higher?
I have Jalen Hurts as QB 13 and Burrow as QB 15.
Yeah.
So I'm basically taking either one of them as like a high upside QB 2. That either one of them potentially could be a QB 1, but like ahead of them, I got obviously Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and Lamar I'm kind of right now in terms of where I want him among quarterbacks. Rodgers, Murray, Dak, Herbert. Those are the top 7. Russ and Brady, Stafford, Tannehill, and Baker. And then we get to Jalen Hurts.
The two names, and we need to roll into these drafts at some point, but these two names that to me were way higher than ADP when I was hearing that was Aaron Rodgers, which makes sense. And I think people are still adjusting to him, playing and being and reporting. And it just takes, the public some time. And then Baker Mayfield. Do you think that Baker Mayfield is basically going to be Ryan Tannehill from the last few years in terms of just unreal efficiency with the Browns this year?
Dead on. That's why I have Tannehill and Mayfield basically neck and neck.
Yeah.
Like they are the same dude to me. Like obviously like in terms of skill set and everything like that, slight differences here and there, but in terms of like production, I mean, shit, they're in very similar systems too.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very close. And I think they're, for fantasy purposes, basically the same guy. And I know people are worried like, oh, he's in a run heavy system. I'm not really sure like how many red zone opportunities he's going to get. Like, well, Rodgers is in a run heavy system. Lamar's in a run heavy system. Allen, well, not last year because they couldn't run block, but theoretically it should have been a run heavy system. Stafford's in a run heavy. Like all of these, Shanahan inspired West Coast offenses around the league are theoretically run heavy, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be passing opportunities in the red zone. I mean, they all bank on that. So I'm not too worried about it. I envision a world where the Browns have like a top 3 to 4 offense and they're putting up 30 plus points a game anyway. So I feel like everybody's going to eat.
I also think they're going to pass the ball just more. Second year in the system, they get Odell back. Baker Mayfield's still growing as a quarterback in the NFL too. So I wouldn't even be surprised if they just pass the ball more. And I think the Browns offense, I think the Browns roster up and down is really sick. And they didn't lose a single starter on their offense. So I think this is the year where Baker, you can kind of buy him as a quarterback too. He doesn't have like that top 5 ceiling because he doesn't run that much, but I think that he can be like a borderline top 10 guy.
Is Oscar a troll here, Brett? Is he real?
No.
Do his friends really take Justin Tucker in the second round every year?
Oscar, I'll tell you this much, bro. If you're in the league where they're taking Justin Tucker in the second round,
money in your pocket.
Don't say anything. Let him do it. Let him do it. Unless it's a weird league where like field goals are worth like 10 points, and then take Justin Tucker yourself. But
you're a lucky man, Oscar. Based on this, you're a lucky man.
I'm going to throw something in chat real quick, which is a link.
Oh yeah,
to a draft that all of you are going to do with me right now. Let me put all right, just went in there. And if you are already on Underdog, you follow that link, get in the draft with me right now. It is a $5 draft. We are playing for real money here, people. This is not a drill.
Let's go.
This is going to be a best ball format. So keep in mind, it is best ball. So whoever is on your bench, well, there's really no bench. It's just whoever you've got, whoever scores the most that week, you're going to get points for. So be aware of that. Shoot for the moon on every single pick. Go for high upside guys. That's why my rankings are kind of all over the fucking place compared to a lot of places, is because I prioritize high upside because I'm building for best ball.
Yeah.
It is half point PPR as well, just so you guys are aware.
And it's 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex. And that's it.
Wow, this filled way faster than I was expecting. Holy shit.
It's Hayden. It's because Hayden's here. Quickly again on best ball. Let's stress that there's no waivers, there's no trades. Once you draft this team, that's it. And Underdog will set your optimal lineup for you each week. So they're like spiked week players, like think of Deshaun Jackson, the fallacy of Will Fuller being one, so on and so forth in the past. There's so much strategy that goes into it, like Brett mentioned, because there's half point PPR. There's so many different builds that it's so much fun to enter a whole bunch of these and then get like the 102 or like the 112, because the builds can be totally different based on which dynamic and draft slot that you get. And speaking of, we're at the 109.
I got 9. All right. So in my combined rankings, I got J.K. Dobbins 9th overall. So that's kind of the benchmark here.
Love this. Brett, just going on a ledge here. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be there at the 9th overall pick. I think so.
Oh, I guarantee you he will. Like I said, my rankings are not like anybody else's. My rankings are wonderful. Fucking weird. Like people look at my rankings and they're like, are you insane? A few years ago, I had Terry McLaurin in the 9th round. And people were like, are you utterly mad? And then it was Terry McLaurin. He was amazing. So I was like,
this is gonna be so good.
I don't get everything right, but sometimes get stuff right.
And everyone in the chat, they just did a little facelift on Underdog. Obviously, if you all are in the draft or even here, Brett, like that little square box that's like a grid, you can click that, and then like that's the whole draft board that's going to be there. And then there's obviously dark mode in the top, and so people can kind of customize it however they want to. Hayden, just quickly outline
there's a
this.
dark. Oh, there is a dark. Wow, how did I never notice that? I've been on this thing for like 3 months.
This is why you bring us here, Brett. This is why you bring us here. Okay, Hayden, outline this. First 2 picks, almost always going to be Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook. Then it gets fascinating. Here it was Devontae Adams at the 103.
Right now, there is no consensus from like 3rd overall all the way to like 25th overall. There is absolutely no consensus, and it like really depends on who you're drafting with. Some rooms you'll get in will be like all wide receivers, and then some rooms will be kind of traditional where it's a lot of running backs. So 9th overall, you can basically do anything. What I like to do typically is like go, if Devontae Adams or somebody else, a stud receiver falls, pair him with a Austin Eckler, and then you have a pretty balanced approach, and then you kind of go wherever you want. But at that back end of the round, you can literally draft whoever. I mean, if you wanted to go Dobbins in the 2nd round, knock yourself out. Typically, you can get Dobbins even in the 3rd round. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I'm not going to ask you this question, Brett, until you finish your first 2 selections, because since this is everyone in this draft is also in your chat, I know you're going to get sniped. So
that's why I'm not queuing anybody.
Yeah,
I know.
I'll wait in the strategy talk here. But again, Devontae Adams you could have gotten him, like you could have had a Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams start in a lot of these drafts about a month ago. And now Devontae, as we see here, is going as the 3rd overall pick in some drafts. All right, Brett, talk us through it.
Oh, well, my number 4 overall player is Nick Chubb, and they left me Nick Chubb. So I am taking Nick Chubb.
What is the pitch for Nick Chubb here to be still locked in top 12 and even top 10 picks here, Brett?
My philosophy with running back, I'm very running back heavy in the 1st round typically, because you're going to get great receivers later on anyway. But you always have to remember, when you're drafting a running back, you're also drafting their offensive line. And the Browns have arguably the best offensive line in the league by a decent margin. So I understand that Kareem Hunt is there. I understand they have a lot of receivers, but when I look at just pure talent of Nick Chubb, plus how amazing their offensive line is, and just how successful that system historically has been in terms of churning out, excellent running back seasons, he was like one of the safest picks in the draft to me. Oh, fuck. They took Eckler. God damn it. Man, I was angling for him.
Just quickly on Nick Chubb, he did finish last year as the running back 6 in fantasy points per game. So like all he has to do is basically repeat what he did last year. And
yeah,
I mean, he is truly one of those, despite his size, game-breaking running backs that can like have those huge spiked week performances. He just might not have, a ton of receiving opportunities with the other running backs that are drafted around him. So
I will say, we always forget about his ceiling in fantasy, because what happens if Kareem Hunt gets hurt? Like Nick Chubb can catch a pass if he needs to. Like there's untapped potential if Kareem Hunt misses time here. All right. We got to hear about this one.
We got to hear about this one too, Brett, because there are a lot of running backs still at that like round 1, round 2 turn. And Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Mixon. I guess Deandre Swift fits in that you're drafting the offensive line talk as well that you just mentioned.
Yep, absolutely. I have Swift and Dobbins literally right next to each other in my rankings. And I just have Swift like a hair above, just because I like the Lions offensive line a lot. And also Anthony Lynn, historically, when you look at him as a play caller, it wasn't a long period of time when he was doing it, but when he was actually a true offensive coordinator play caller, his run pass balance was insane. Like he runs the ball a lot. And so when I look at the talent of the offensive line, just how good Deandre Swift is, he's got great feet, exceptional burst, catches the ball well, except for in week 1 of last year. It's kind of a rough ending for them. And just who their play caller is. Again, you're drafting not just the running back, you're drafting the offensive line, and you're also drafting the play caller too. Like you have to understand like who's going to be giving this dude the ball. I think DeAndre Swift is a very, very safe pick.
Are you drafting the offense too? Because aren't you a little nervous? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here, that like the Lions might be like a bottom 3 team in wins and losses, or is he like not games.
I don't think they will be.
Oh, interesting. Good.
I like the Lions better than a lot of people because at the end of the day, football, as much as we love to talk about how wide receivers and DBs and everything like make or break a football team, you still got to win the line of scrimmage. And the Lions are built to win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They're going to have a great D-line. They're going to have a great O-line. Jared Goff is at least competent. And the receiver situation, it's not great, but it's not awful either. Like I do think that they have a couple. Like I'm really excited about Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I'm not saying that because he's a modern day alum, and I'm a modern day alum, and I've been watching him since he was like 17. He genuinely is a really good football player, and not to mention, again, with their running back rotation, they're going to be able to run the ball, play defense. Like that's the kind of team they're going to be, and those teams sometimes they're really hard to beat. I don't think that they're going to be getting blown out as much as people think they are.
This is a fascinating draft room because we're now into the top of round 3, Hayden, and the likes of Jonathan Taylor and Joe Mixon are still on the board. Brett, can you quickly hit the grid so we can see the full draft board? Do you see that right next to your name on the right? Yeah, down a little bit.
There we go.
Boom. There we go. George Kittle went ahead of Darren Waller. Anything else stand out to you, Hayden? Only 7 wide receivers in the top 2 rounds has kind of become an uncommon thing here on these underdog drafts. So your running back start here, Brett. You're going to still be able to get some awesome wide receivers here if you want to start that run soon. And
when you look at my rankings on Patreon, like my first couple rounds are just loaded with running backs. Like I'm a traditionalist, I guess you can call it. Every time I do 0 RB, and I've tried it many times over the last 12 years, I fall flat on my face. Anytime that I go running back early, because again, running backs are going to get hurt. You need depth. You need good players at running back. I feel like I can find receivers anywhere, but anytime I try to go 0 RB, I just get absolutely destroyed in fantasy. So I not always, but most of the time, I'm at least going running back first and trying to double up if there's value, because I know like rounds 3 through 10, I'm going to get plenty of dudes.
Yeah. All right, if you want to hit the X because you're about to draft. Hayden, what would your advice be here? I mean, there's Robert Woods, there's Mike Evans, there's a whole bunch of great wide receivers. And again, you have to start 3 and maybe even 4 in your flex.
I would go Robert Woods or Mike Evans here, or even Tyler Lockett. I like these wide receivers over the running backs, certainly, especially since you already started with 2 running backs. How I treat running back is I'm okay with drafting 2 early. I don't like drafting 3 early. Because if one of those late running backs actually makes your lineup, you want him to just actually start. Oh boy, here we go. Brandon Ayuk, pick your guys.
I was looking to see if DK was gone, and I think he was.
He is, yeah.
He is.
So it was either DK or Ayuk for me. Yeah, which I mean makes sense. It's DK, but I'm so much higher than Ayuk than like basically everybody on planet Earth. I think his skill set is eerily similar to Devonta Adams, and he's playing in an eerily similar offense right now because Green Bay and San Francisco, they run a lot of the same shit. And I think the upgrade in quarterback situation should be taken into account here. I know that Jimmy G is slated to start week 1, but I can't guarantee that he will. And then once Trey Lance gets in the game, it's going to be bombs away. I think Ayuk is phenomenal. Great route runner, great yards after catch ability, extreme length. I mean, his catch radius is, at least like in terms of length and vert and everything like that, it's equivalent to Megatron, even though he's not as big as Megatron. He's just an insanely underrated football player. And I know I'm taking him early, but I also wasn't super confident that he would have been there at the end of the 4th round. So I was like, I'm just going to take my dudes and I'll live with what else happens.
Before we get to this next pick, it was funny, Brett. I think you and I were both tweeting about Brandon Ayuk last night. And because I like to just highlight singular plays at times because I think we forget about what happened, just a couple months ago. You were talking about how Kyle Shanahan somewhat has a history of feeding his ex-wide receiver. I mean, just a few years ago, Pierre Garçon was like the top reception leader or top 3 in the NFL. And we know Brandon Ayuk is just so much more talented at that time than Garçon was in his career. Sorry, the scientist is working. We're inside the mind with about 10, seemingly 30-second clocks. I did see a question from someone earlier on. If we have slow drafts, yes, on Underdog, you can go and check it out in the lobby. If there's the clock, that means it's a slow draft. Everything else is a fast draft for 30 seconds. And then slow drafts, what are 8 hours to 10 hours, depending on that. And those are,
I like the fast drafts because I can just do a shitload of them and really get a sense of like where people are going.
Oh yeah.
It took me a while because I had to find where Godwin was. I actually have Godwin as a second round value. I didn't even realize he was still on the board. I have him ranked ahead of Ayuk. So the fact that I got both of them and they're both ranked in my top 11 receivers and I got them in round 3 and 4, that's exactly why I go running back early.
Yeah.
Because I'm still getting 2 great receivers anyway. Like I'd rather have Chubb, Swift, Ayuk, and Godwin than, Hopkins, Tyreek, and I don't know, whatever running backs are left right now.
Yeah. There's still a ton of wide receivers on the board too. We had Justin Herzig on our show earlier to do a draft. Justin won the first Best Ball Mania last year and won $200,000. Again, that prize pool is now up to $1 million for first place this year. But Hayden, we had this conversation where, we talk about the top wide receivers, then like our favorites after that, and we kind of gloss over Chris Godwin, but he's like an absolute stud, and if healthy, should fit like right perfectly with Tom Brady and his skill set too.
His numbers are right in line with Mike Evans if you look at the last 2 seasons with Bruce Arians, and I don't see Tom Brady like letting go of that system. I mean, he's barely coming into. I mean, the last like 8 games of the season last year is when you finally saw the offense click, and they didn't lose anybody. And I can see that Tom Brady like having an MVP season. I think that another huge year is coming. And I think that in best ball, if you can stack Chris Godwin with Antonio Brown and a Tom Brady, I'm all the way up for that.
Yeah,
Brett,
especially Tom.
Yeah. Brett, where are you with Darrell Henderson, who just went at the end of round 4? Like when you have gone back or even just watched the Rams, because his ADP is still fluctuating, obviously, after the Cam Akers injury.
I've got him as a 5th round value even after Akers injury because it's a durability thing for me. I think he's not as good of a running back as Cam Akers, but I think he's very much a good complementary back to what Cam Akers was. I think he's got really good speed. And so I think when they're running all that outside zone stuff, like he actually is a threat to press front side, which then makes it a little bit easier. Just kind of like get those linebackers out of their gaps so we can cut it back. I feel like that's why he was so successful on zone. Whereas Akers, like he could also do that, but I feel like Akers was also a little bit more successful, when they would do duo or power. Henderson just isn't quite the same runner to me on the interior. And so I feel like he's more of a complimentary back, a good one, than like a true, 20 plus touches per game kind of guy. The reason why I have him in the 5th round is because they don't really have anybody else. So he's going to get touches regardless. But again, the durability thing, I pulled back a little bit because he's going typically in like the 4th round I've seen from other drafts. I pulled back a little bit from that because I don't want to be, one of my buddies, Nick Arcolano, has like a great phrase that he uses where don't look for injuries in fantasy football because injuries will find you. And I feel like if I'm taking Darrell Henderson, and I have like, if he's like my RB2 and I wait 3 rounds to get another running back, I am playing with fire because I think that dude's going to get injured eventually.
Okay, you're on the clock. While you pick, I think it is worth noting that Sean McVay, even prior to like these preseason changes, just refuses to play his stars in preseason. I highly doubt we see like a single touch from Darrell Henderson, but Hayden, we're going to see a bunch of Xavier Jones and Jake Funk, a ton of that.
Yep. Xavier Jones. I've been at Rams practice the last couple weeks, and Xavier Jones is clearly the number 2 right now. And then it's Funk, and neither of those guys did much in college. But apparently McVay likes what he's seeing from those 2 guys. I think those guys are also complimentary guys. I could see McVay bringing in a Duke Johnson or something like that in the very last week of training camp. But for right now, I think it's going to be Darrell Henderson. I'm with you guys. I do think the Rams want to keep him at like 16 touches per game, not the full Todd Gurley bell cow role. But I do think that he'll be efficient and he'll have some big weeks because he is so explosive and the Rams offense should be good, that I feel pretty comfortable like in round 4 or 5 where he's being drafted.
Let's talk
best
about
ball is really where you want to take him because like in best ball, like he's the kind of guy that like randomly could just break a couple runs and pop off. So like if you're going to draft him high anywhere, it is in best ball. But people that are taking him like early 4th round in just like normal formats, that's a little rich for me.
You're about to be on the clock. I'm going to ask about both of these selections here in a moment because you just took one of Hayden Winks's absolute favorite players, and you're going to have to confirm all of Hayden's biases because he railroads me with them every single show, and so I want to hear it from your mouth too. There's still some great players to me. Look like Deebo Samuel is on the board, and I'm not suggesting you take him, but I think a lot of people out there when you do drafts, you wonder like, oh, do I have to pick one of these wide receivers? Or can I, like previously on the Vikings, take, Bo Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, or, CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup? Absolutely you can, because you're not just picking it's not just one wide receiver that's going to be good. You're betting on the offense to be good. And if it's like a top 5, top 10 passing offense, then you probably hit some really good value in both of those selections. So don't be afraid to take players on the same team. For sure.
Do you know how many Chiefs fans won their fantasy leagues in 2018 when they drafted Kelsey and Hill and Mahomes and Hunt? Like it works. Just if it's a really good offense, just get as many pieces of it as you can because they're going to score.
Yeah,
that's why I'm taking I take Niners at every possible opportunity because I think they're going to be amazing.
Well, talk about Trey Sermon because fifth round
guy, man.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Trey Sermon he's such a Kyle Shanahan running back. And people always look at this offense and they say, like, Kyle Shanahan loves slashers. He loves, the undersized speed demons, the Mosterts, the Jeff Wilsons and everything like that. And it's like, yeah, he makes them work because he's Kyle Shanahan. But like what Kyle Shanahan really wants is a 220 plus pound running back that has really good feet and vision. Going back to, Arian Foster was a UDFA in 2009 when Kyle Shanahan was there. Alfred Morris in 2012 came in with RG3 and immediately became that kind of guy for him. Devonta Freeman, not quite 220 pounds, but, he's very compact, very strong, not great elite speed, but he had really good feet.
Yeah.
That's the kind of running back he likes because he wants that kind of guy that he can feed and feed and feed and get into a groove. And if the blocking isn't great, he can still run through contact and make something out of nothing. And Trey Sermon's that kind of running back. That's why he drafted him in like the 3rd round, which Kyle Shanahan never drafts running backs that high. So he must really, really like him. And I think when you look at Trey Sermon, you go back to like the Ohio State game against Northwestern where all they were running was outside zone. And he murdered them with outside zone. Like, I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan looked at that game and was like, well, that's what we do. And he's really good at it. Let's go get this dude and pair him up with Trey Lance and do a whole bunch of crazy stuff in the run game. He's going to be tremendous. I'm a little bit upset that I have to spend a 5th round pick on him now because I was hoping that he was going to be like my under the radar, rookie running back that I could get like 8th, 9th round this year. But nah, the word got out on him pretty quick. He's really good.
I have a confession. I was watching Trey Sermon all 22 against Clemson last night at like 11 p.m. I was watching some coaching clinics, and I was like, all right, let me go find a running back to go watch to see if I'm understanding what they're saying. And man, Trey Sermon, it's his jump cut ability that's so special to me for somebody that size. Yeah. And you see it even with the athletic testing. Trey Sermon's 3-cone was like outrageous, like 80th percentile for among running backs. And he's kind of taller, and he's like, 215 pounds. So that's what was so impressive to me. And I mean, he presses the line of scrimmage and can make a jump cut, and he doesn't have like the long speed of a Raheem Mostert. But I'm with you. I think Shanahan was using those undersized backs because that's all he had. In a perfect world, he wants a workhorse. And like you nailed it with the Alfred Morris. I mean, I'm looking at Alfred Morris's stats. Back when RG3 won the Rookie of the Year, Alfred Morris averaged 100 rushing yards per game with 13 touchdowns. So that's the kind of ceiling you're getting with Trey Sermon. And obviously Trey Sermon was a better prospect than Alfred Morris was.
And yeah, that's the thing. Trey is just a much better player.
Yes.
Like by far than Alfred ever was. Also, Aaron Rodgers available in the 7th round. What the hell? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, no. I'm trying to find right now just the normal ADPs on, I'll bring it up right here, where Aaron Rodgers is typically going. Yeah, he's going around 85th overall, and you got him at 81st overall. So I still think there's some adjustment because Russell Wilson is going at like 75, Justin Herbert as 81. But there's like a clear there's like a clear drop from the Dak Prescott, who's going as quarterback 5 around 65 overall, then all the way down to, again, Aaron Rodgers at 85 overall.
Dante, I hate you. You took Darnell Mooney from me. That was my guy. Next pick.
Just one final closing note on Trey Sermon. You mentioned a whole bunch of productive runners with Kyle Shanahan, Alfred Morris, Arian Foster. I'll even go back to Mike Shanahan. These names won't mean anything to Hayden, but Mike Anderson, Olandis Gary, Reuben Drones, like no draft capital was spent on any of these guys. And it wasn't just a 3rd round selection that was spent on Trey Sermon. They traded 2 third rounders to go up and get him, So it's like a double whammy in terms of investment. And while I've loved Raheem Mostert, and he's the most explosive running back in the NFL, just from start to stop, he might not even be on the roster. Like it truly, the running back room might be Trey Sermon and Eli Mitchell next year, and that's it. So why not get the guy going right now? So
that's part of the reason why I'm also down on Henderson a little bit for the Rams, is because the Niners have so many running backs that I think inevitably one of them is going to end up on the Rams roster after cuts, and he's going to go take carries from Henderson. Almost guarantee it. Also, I just took Elijah Moore 2 rounds earlier than even I have him in my own rankings because I knew I wasn't going to get him.
Yep.
So it was him or Jalen Waddle. I have Jalen Waddle ranked higher, but I refuse to go another draft. It's been like 10 in a row where I don't get Elijah Moore. I need to own him somewhere.
Maybe a little flashback to our dynasty draft where I took him ahead of you, right?
Yeah, on purpose. For those that don't know, Josh and I are in a dynasty league with
Field Yates, Mike Golick Jr., a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Trevor Sikkema,
Ben
Solak. Yeah. God, it's an all-star league, and Josh betrayed my confidence.
I think
who
you
I
DM'd
wanted.
me before we started drafting. You're like, you better not take Elijah Moore ahead of me. And I said, I'm absolutely taking Elijah Moore ahead of you.
And I was in like the worst spot because I was at the end of every single freaking round.
I do want to ask about the Jets, because I'm sure you maybe have a better idea of what a team like the Jets can be, because right now they're a total unknown for like the normal audience, because it's a new head coach and a new play caller. What do you expect to see from Elijah Moore and the rest of the Jets offense this season? Because again, I like to dip our toe in like the unknown a little bit, because sometimes that means we can find tremendous values in fantasy football because of it.
I think when you look at Elijah Moore, he is probably going to be, God, how do I phrase this? He's going to be like a combination of like a DJ Moore and a Curtis Samuel when they were both in Carolina together, where, or like a combination of Ayuk and Debo in the Niners, where it's like, Debo is the jet sweep guy. He's the screen guy. He's, give him the ball within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage kind of guy and let him go win with Yak. Whereas Ayuk's more of like the true deep threat. Elijah Moore is unique in that he can do both of those things equally well. And so I feel like the Jets are going to use him in multiple ways. Like, he's not just going to have one role in this offense. He's going to have every role in this offense. Like Corey Davis, good player, kind of one-dimensional. Vincent Smith, good player, like really good at stretching the field, a little bit more one-dimensional. Jamison Crowder, also kind of one-dimensional, really kind of locked in on the slot. Elijah Moore can play all of those roles really anytime you want him to. And so I feel like he's going to outsnap virtually every receiver on this team because he's so versatile and he's so good at doing a little bit of everything. I've seen some people like throw out Antonio Brown comps for him, and I'm not ready to like say he's going to be one of the 10 greatest receivers of all time like AB is, but in terms of skill set, like he's very similar to young AB, who was a great returner, who got carries in the backfield and was good at it. Put him in the slot, he was great. Put him outside, and he would just out-muscle corners that were bigger than him. Elijah Moore's that same kind of guy. I am really, really high on him.
Hayden, in the chat, AHDT asks Elijah Moore over Corey Davis. They're really close on underdog right now.
I have them Moore, literally right next to each other.
Yeah, wide receiver 49, Corey Davis, wide receiver 52. Hayden, it's like a major decision to make at times, because you have the rookie who hasn't played ever, and then the guy that they just spent a bunch of money on after his best season in the NFL?
I think it's more likely that Corey Davis has a better season, but there's these like ceiling outcomes that only Elijah Moore could hit, because I think I'm with Brett that Corey Davis is a good player, but he's not like a true number one receiver in the NFL. And Elijah Moore could be. I kind of comped Elijah Moore to Tyler Lockett coming out. I think that he can be used in the screen game, and he also has enough speed and wiggle to work downfield as well. And they have pretty similar size profiles. So I'm really high on Elijah Moore. I thought, in my prospect model, he was like a 96 or 97th percentile prospect. And there was nothing about the tape that was scaring me away. So he's going to be moving around all over the offense. If he's as good as we think, he's going to have a big season.
I love that Lockett comp. I really do.
Steal it. I steal the time from Hayden, so just take it from him.
I remember Lockett, when Lockett was like a junior, he was going up against Jason Verrett when Jason was like coming out. And Jason was like the best corner in the country. And he destroyed him just with pure route running. That was the first time I saw Tyler Lockett, and I was like, I don't know who that is, but I want him on my team. And now, like a decade later, here we are. He's one of the better receivers of the last 7 years.
Man, what a career Jason Verrett could have had if he just like was able to stay healthy in his first 4 years. He was so talented coming out of school too, and it didn't hit him until like his career, until he like started taking 1-year contracts. It feels like.
His feet are so fast; it is insane.
So fast.
His feet are just like.
Ooh, do I want? This is tough. Yeah. Okay. Screw it. I'm going all in on the Niners.
All right, Hayden. We have to be honest here. All right, let's put our honesty hats on, because we're through 10 rounds here of this draft for Brett Coleman, and this is a very interesting roster construction. Again, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a flex that you're starting and is getting picked for you each week. Again, you start with 2 running backs and Nick Chubb and Deandre Swift, then 2 wide receivers, Ayuk and Godwin. Anyways, through 10 rounds, just 3 wide receivers and 4 running backs are on the roster. Thoughts, Hayden?
I think he needs to grab a second tight end and then literally only draft wide receivers at this point. Like, you've already committed all this draft capital to your quarterbacks and your running backs. We need to be trusting that Mark Andrews has a good season here, but you are very weak at wide receiver compared to some of the other teams. And I think this is okay, because I think a lot of the data suggests that if you had 9 or 10 wide receivers, that's totally fine in best ball and underdog. So I would basically just sort that wide receiver stuff and then trust your tape evaluations and hope that you get some good values here. I will say that I think it is easier to predict late round wide receivers compared to some other positions, because I think that talent ends up going to the top. And I think that if you spend the time to do the research on it, you can kind of find some breakout candidates.
And that's where my arrogance comes in, is because I have so many receivers in my back pocket, like rounds 15 plus, that I know I'm going to get. Because I'm arrogant as fuck when it comes to wide receiver evaluation.
Let's see it.
I know I'm going to get dudes.
There's been and again, best ball is so new that a lot of, like, we're still trying to figure out what the most efficient way is to play this game. There's been a lot of content recently, Brett, on just like roster constructions, but it takes into mind the 18 rounds that are on Underdog of like 2 quarterbacks, 4 wide receivers, 4 running backs, 8 or 9 or 10 wide receivers, and then 2 tight ends. I like to think that there's multiple ways to win it, but just because of the wide receiver position and how you have to start at least 3 per week, I do think that there is something into having at least 8 wide receivers on your roster, and you can't really be balanced at running back and at wide receiver at the end of your draft.
See, this is how I know I'm drafting with my subscribers. Brian Edwards went in the 10th round.
Yep.
They're just fucking with me at this point.
Yep. They picked up your draft guide on Patreon. Rankings on Patreon.
They took Rhonda Moore from me too. Oh my God. Okay. This is not a normal draft for me. Oh shit. Okay. I'm going to have to adjust.
Were those some of your round 15 back pocket picks?
They're taken by dudes.
There are a couple
brutal.
more names on here, like Marvin Jones went right ahead of your Trey Lance selection. We didn't talk about the Jaguars at all on this stream so far. I think Marvin Jones, he's being drafted as a distant third wide receiver on their team.
God, there goes Marshall. Fuck.
And I think Marvin Jones has a chance of leading that wide receiver group in production this season. So,
dude, my subs are going for the throat right now.
They are.
I'm very curious.
Probably all they have the same Excel doc as I do up right now. I guarantee.
Yeah. That's so good. Brett, do you have a favorite non-Devontae Adams receiver? And all of a sudden, it's like a low-key kind of crowded group, particularly in the slot when you have Cobb, Lazard. That's where Amari Rodgers is going to play. Do you have any faith in MVS? You've already committed to Aaron Rodgers. I think in a perfect world, you would take a little shot on one of these Packers wide receivers because they're all available still.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about Cobb. Man, this is like such not a great position.
Let's make the pitch for Nelson Aguilar. I'll make that pitch if you need me to.
Is he still there? Okay. Yeah. I feel good about Nelson Aguilar at least. I think he's at least going to be on the field a lot for New England. And also 100%. I'm a big Cam Newton guy. I know you're a huge Cam Newton guy too. Yeah, I am so thrown for a loop right now.
What is
all my dudes are gone. That sucks.
Has Tunyon been selected at tight end?
No, I don't think he had. Oh, maybe he did.
Yeah, he was selected.
Okay.
I was just trying to stack.
Those actually, there's more depth at tight end right now than there is at receiver.
Yeah. Nelson Aguilar, to your point, and as much as I love Cam Newton, as much as you love him, it was struggle city last year. I'm a little bit nervous that it might be over for Cam. But Nelson Aguilar, the investment that they have in him, like you said, they're going to probably lead the NFL as long as Hunter Henry is safe in 12 personnel. And so he's going to be locked into one of those outside receiver spots 100%. So that's going to give you some startable weeks, hopefully.
This is so brutal.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
Yeah, this is the little bit of the damage that you get into of selecting 4 running backs in the top 10 rounds.
All right, I got Marquez Callaway. I feel okay about Marquez Callaway. No offense to the person who took Traquan Smith like a round ahead of me, but I think Marquez Callaway could very easily outproduce Traquan Smith. That's
where the buzz is heading.
In the absence of Michael Thomas. Let's see, who was it? I think it was. Wow, what a name! Party till Shizat.
Oh,
what a name!
Have you dived into Marquez Callaway like tape? Because
I just watched him
individually.
I watched him like a week ago. A lot of hitches, a lot of slants. Like he was literally I'm sitting in between the zone, throw it to me when there's no other option kind of guy. So he just racks up volume 5 yards past the line of scrimmage over and over and over again. They didn't really start going vertical with him till later in the year, but he showed the ability to do that a little bit as well. Not to the same degree of like Michael Thomas, obviously, but I think he's going to get volume because he's literally just going to sit there in between zones and put up a diamond and say, throw it to me. And whether it's Jameis or Taysom or whoever, I think he's going to be like, other than Kamara, like the check down guy for them. And so in a half PPR where receptions do matter, not as much as full PPR, but in the 12th round where I'm looking for a wide receiver 5, if he's getting like seven of those dump offs in one game and like 60 yards, that could do something for me. In the absence of not being able to get any of my other high upside guys, I'll take it.
Lynn Flakasinski in the chat says you're getting hit by every red and green shell possible in Mario Kart right now with all these picks. That's basically what's happening to you.
It's awful. This is soul crushing. This is what stream sniping feels like.
Yes, 100%. Where are you at on Noah Fant, Brett? When you go back and watch Noah Fant, because he's one of those. He's not a late round tight end. I mean, I'm not going to say 10th round here is late round, but after those proven guys, it's a cluster of questions. And when I try to predict the future, Noah Fant has everything on his resume to be like a top 5 tight end next season, possibly.
when you're drafting Noah Fant, you're basically just banking on yak, because I don't necessarily trust either of these quarterbacks in terms of like, how the Niners feature George Kittle, where they will literally put George Kittle out there as a wide receiver and say, go run a corner post and we're going to hit you on it 25 yards down the field. I don't trust either of these quarterbacks to make that throw. Same thing with Travis Kelce. Like, you can't use Noah Fant the same way you use them or Darren Waller or presumably, Pitts in Atlanta, just because of their quarterback situation. So I think it's more, okay, we're running, like slide routes off play action and getting the ball to him in the flat and just letting him use that 4-4 speed and go run, or shallow crosses, tight end screens. Like, it's going to be yak city with him. Very similar to Jonnu Smith last year, I think. Like, very similar kind of role with how the Titans use Jonnu. Except I think Fant is faster than Jonnu, so it could potentially pay off more. But even then, I feel like his ceiling is capped a little bit based on who's throwing in the ball. Like, if they were able to pull off an Aaron Rodgers trade on draft night, yeah, Noah Fant's probably like a top 4 tight end. But unfortunately for them, they didn't.
All right, you're on the clock. Your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe, is still on the board. If you
Oh no, not autopilot. There we go.
If you want to take him, there's a few more wide receivers. I'm just trying to throw out some names that you've already mentioned.
I do like Amon-Ra, and he's going to get volume. Yeah, I'll bite the bullet on that one. It's a little bit early for where I wanted to go with him, but there's just so many receivers going off the board. That's the thing with best ball that like you're not prepared for, is that receivers go early.
Really early.
Mid rounds is all receivers.
Hayden, you just looked at this. Wasn't there, like, compared to last year at this time, just a gap of almost 20 spots between certain running backs at like the running back 3 tier?
Basically, the running backs from like the running back 25 to running back 50 are being drafted 2 or 3 rounds later than they were last year. And then the wide receivers, like wide receiver 38 to wide receiver 70, all of those guys are being drafted 2 or 3 rounds earlier than they were last year. So it's the position you have to be monitoring, because if you're late to the party, like you are really late to the party, they're going to make you pay for it. So it's something to keep in mind. On Underdog, they're going to be really aggressive with wide receivers.
And I'm so used, because I've done like a lot of Underdog drafts at this point. I'm so used to just having a whole bunch of guys that I like that nobody else likes available. But it's a totally different ballgame when I'm drafting with people that are also using my rankings, because then I can't get any of my values. This is the weirdest experience I've had drafting. You
need to share a little like decoy rankings where it's like your fade list at your top, and then release the real one after the stream.
Yeah,
this is just killing me.
Yeah, maybe next year when we do this stream, Brett, you release your rankings after we finish.
Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea. Man, okay. Do I want Cobb here?
I say pick your favorite Packer. I mean, you already drafted Rodgers. If he has a big season,
one of these guys
or Cobb has to do something.
Or Amari Rodgers.
One of these guys.
Yeah. I'll go Cobb, because I feel like Aaron brought him in for a reason.
Does he have anything left, Brett?
I think he does, actually. Injuries and just the horrible situation in Houston, I think, made him look worse than he was. I do think there's still a little bit of gas left in there. But I think Aaron brought him in because Aaron knows that for a long time, basically since Randall left, they have not had a slot option that he really, really connected with. Like, obviously there's Devonta, but in an ideal world, Devonta's playing outside, and then you have a true slot receiver so that you don't have to put Devonta in the slot. And I really feel like Aaron demanded they bring in Cobb for chemistry reasons, because so much of playing in the slot is about chemistry in terms of just knowing how to find space, knowing how to read coverage. There's a lot of nuance to that specific position, and you kind of need to know how your quarterback thinks. And I believe that Aaron maybe didn't trust that he was going to be able to build that kind of chemistry with, say, Amari Rodgers quick enough, especially if he's only expecting to be there for another year and that's it. He's like, look, give me my guys that I know how to play with. We'll make a run this year and then, trade me next year. So I do feel like Cobb is going to get volume just because of the mental connection that he has with Rodgers, that at least in that spot on the field matters a lot.
I think I read that they're living together. Like right now, Randall Cobb is living with Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers right now. So can't
Yeah,
get
I mean, they're
any
like
closer
best
than
friends.
that. Yep.
Yeah.
I believe, and maybe Brett, you know this connection. I believe Amari Rodgers' dad also coached Randall Cobb in college, so he calls him like
Really?
a big brother too.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is true.
So that maybe that's like the perfect person to learn from. And when I watched Amari Rodgers at Clemson, what I loved were like his back shoulder receptions inside the 10-yard line too. And we know that Aaron Rodgers loves to throw those passes. It's one I'm excited to see that player.
I think that Amari Rodgers' dad, if I remember correctly, is T. Martin, who was longtime wide receivers coach at USC, churned out Robert Woods, churned out Michael Pittman. I didn't realize that he coached at Kentucky when Cobb was there.
Yeah,
That's
there's some weird connection between those two guys. So I think it makes a little bit of sense for the Packers to kind of put Amari Rodgers on a 2-year build. Josh, what do you got for us?
Kentucky 2010 wide receivers coach, Kentucky 2011 passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. There we go.
Well, there you go. How about that? Amari Rodgers is great, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw him at the Senior Bowl. He was cooking people. He was somebody
that all the people that do analytics for fantasy football didn't like because he wasn't that productive. And when he was productive, he was a little bit older. But he seemed like somebody that's very trustworthy. I thought that eventually, if Aaron Rodgers was going to stick around for a while, that they would be on the same page. But I'm with you. If Rodgers knows this is his last season, there's no point of trying to build rapport with the rookie.
Yeah, you just have to hope that Jordan Love is good if you took him in Dynasty, which jury's out on that.
I'll make this prediction on your show, Brett. So when it happens, you can pull it back. Aaron Rodgers, Carolina Panther, 2022.
So you just hate Sam Darnold? Is that what you're saying as a Panthers fan?
No fandom here. I just think David Tepper, if a trade happens because of a contract, I think someone like suggested rap sheet that Aaron Rodgers might be the first $50 million guy. I mean, David Tepper's just going to open that checkbook. And like, I'm sure you saw the movie Blank Check. That's what he's going to get. Aaron Rodgers is going to get a blank check. So that team just, what is fascinating now with the NFL is if Sam Darnold plays well, then they can get good value for him next year too. And even if he doesn't, then he's not going to be like a complete zero in terms of trade value. Like, unless you're like EJ Manuel, quarterbacks don't zero out in terms of value. It's amazing that they can still hold on to something and be traded for despite, not showing great play. So,
I mean, if I was Aaron Rodgers, because he's going to get to dictate where he's going to get traded to. Would you rather get traded to the Carolina Panthers or the Denver Broncos? And that's a legitimate question because I think they both have a lot of good young talent. It might come down to just what division you want to be in. Like, does Aaron want to be in Tom's division? Does he want to be in Pat's division? If I was him, I'd probably lean towards wanting to be in Tom's division because at least there's a shot that maybe Tom might retire in a couple of years. If you're going with Pat, you're going to have to deal with him for the rest of your natural life.
Yeah. You've got 19 seconds left. I could be wrong, but I'm going to be right. I'm on a good wave here, Brett, with predicting stuff.
Man, I've heard some good things about N'Keal Harry. Do I want to punish myself? Yes, I do.
You got on us for talking highly of Sammy Watkins, and you just selected N'Keal Harry.
I know. Well, fucking Rondale Moore was gone like 6 rounds ago, and that's normally my guy here. So
you would be shocked on Underdog how early Rondale Moore is going. The fantasy football community absolutely loves and expects a lot from Rondale Moore at wide receiver 58. I mean, he's going ahead of Terrace Marshall. He's going ahead of Emmanuel Sanders. I'm just throwing out names. I'm seeing him. Nelson Aguilar, he's going ahead of. What do you expect his role to be this year, Brett? More than just like that interior guy to make big plays?
The only reason I've drafted him is because I also got Aguilar.
Got it.
And I feel like, okay, worst case scenario, New England's throwing the ball for like 200 yards a game. That's worst case scenario. So for me, I'm thinking either Aguilar is going to produce or N'Keal is going to produce. Either way, I'm going to get credit for passing yards in the New England offense, unless they just completely abandon wide receivers and only throw to running backs and tight ends, which is something that New England has done before, but not in a decade. I just feel like at this point I'm hunting for scraps, and I would rather own an entire receiving core for an offense than just take a flyer on, Anthony Miller or something like that,
Here's how the N'Keal Harry pick works out: is they trade him to the Falcons, and all of a sudden he's in 3 wide receiver sets with Matt Ryan. So we'll see.
On the other
and to
end of
N'Keal's credit, like I have heard good things about him at camp right now. Like, it's the whole, he's a totally different player. Like, I don't normally believe that, but hey, it's a 16th round, and I'm just trying to get whatever upside I can.
You brought up Rondale Moore. What do you expect Rondale Moore's rookie season to be like with the Cardinals? Because we know Cliff likes to stick certain wide receivers on one side of the field. It'll be DeAndre Hopkins on the left for like 80% of the time, and AJ Green on the right, barring his health. And then you have Rondale Moore as this player who obviously hasn't really touched the field that often the last 2 years. We called him Thick Tavon in our show because he's just so fun and so electric with the ball in his hands. What do you expect from him in year one?
He is the slot guy, and I'm putting out a video on him tomorrow. But he is going to be like the slot option in this offense. I know Christian Kirk is there, but I feel like Kirk is going to be more fighting for snaps with AJ Green than fighting for snaps with Rondale, because Rondale does everything that Kirk does, but he does it better. Better deep threat, better yak threat. I understand he's small, but he plays so much bigger than his height. Like, they drafted him specifically to give themselves a vertical element out of the slot. Somebody that, when a safety is rolling over for DeAndre Hopkins, if they're playing like a coverage called one double jersey number, God's favorite coverage, like they're never going to double Rondale Moore. They're going to double DeAndre Hopkins, which means he's going to get one-on-one with a nickel and can just run away from him. And Kyler's going to throw bombs because Kyler has a great deep ball. Like, Rondale's upside is jaw-dropping in this offense. And I thought he would go later than the 10th round. I'm a little bit disappointed that he didn't, but I also don't hate that he went in the 10th round, because, like, worst case scenario, I might have taken him there too.
I didn't see him run that many vertical routes in college. Now, this is like a game that we always play. That doesn't mean that he can't do it. Are you expecting in like year one, Rondale Moore could be that vertical element as well? Because that's kind of a little bit of a projection to me, but he's so athletic, and all the things about his work ethic scream to me that he's only going to get better and better and better. So are you expecting vertical shots like immediately?
Yeah, the only reason why he wasn't running vertical in college, because their quarterback situation, like, they could not throw it more than 10 yards down the field. It was an abysmal quarterback situation. Like, one of the only quarterback situations that I felt was comparable was like Stanford the year before that, where it was like quarterback was blindfolded and just saying, okay, let's see if this works. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And so pretty much the only way that they could give Rondale, who was their best player by far, the ball, was screens, sweeps, hitches. That was all they could do. And so we didn't really get to see the quote unquote true Rondale Moore that we're going to see in Arizona. And I really think that if he was on like an SEC team with like a capable quarterback and they featured him, he would have been a first round pick. Almost guarantee it.
I agree.
Love that. All right. Your last selection. You can pretty much go anywhere with this one, because
I feel thin at running back. I feel like I need to.
There's some pretty good options here. I mean, Devontae Booker might get some run early in the season with Saquon Barkley, possibly being brought along slowly. There's a few others too. It looks like you're searching for one of your favorites here.
Oh, man, who do I want? Where's Darrington?
He's probably gone.
I do love Darrington Evans this year. He's the sleeper to know for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take Gainwell just
because Darrington, if Derrick Henry goes down, their identity is going to shift a little bit, but Darrington Evans would be right along with that new shift in offense.
When did Evans go?
Usually like 16th round, 17th round. It kind of depends what draft we're in.
Where is he? Did he go super early?
Because I thought I was keeping track. I was kind of holding him in my back pocket the whole time. Where did he go? Because I have him as like an 11th round value. Did he?
There might be more. Oh, there's more picks to the right. So it's probably.
Why is it not letting?
There he is. There he is. He was just the round before.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at the 12th turn.
Man, that's disappointing.
Brett, lay out what the differences, if there are going to be any, on the Titans offense this year without Arthur Smith. Because what I keep repeating on the Underdog Football Show is that Arthur Smith is just an absolute wizard inside the red zone. Like they go from, him being top 2, top 1 in the NFL over the last 2 seasons to could someone just basically recreate that since they, just hired from within on the Titans.
I'm a big Arthur Smith fan. And my podcast co-host EJ Snyder, he always says that play calling is just as much art as it is science. Like you have to have a keen sense of timing. You have to know in terms of like, okay, it's almost like a feel thing. Like you have to know like when's the best time situationally, like what hash mark, what field position, what personnel do I think that I'm going to be able to hit on crack toss, and knowing, not just having it on your play sheet and having it scripted in your first 15, but knowing like when is the best time that I can call this specific call to absolutely gut these people. Like if I'm getting CJ Henderson, who's not a DB that likes to tackle, and he's like my boundary side corner and I'm calling crack toss his way, can I guarantee that he's going to be the dude that has to replace the crack and try to tackle Derrick Henry in space and call that? So it's just as much feel as it is, doing install during the week. And I feel like Arthur Smith is very good at that in terms of knowing when to call something and not just having it in his offense. He's a very good kind of instinctual play caller. And so I feel like that's going to be a benefit for Atlanta, is just having somebody on the sidelines that has that killer instinct. And I think it's going to benefit literally everybody in that system.
Totally different having the blueprint of the playbook versus actually understanding the adjustments in game with all that stuff too. So I'm with you. I think that the loss of Arthur Smith is a big deal. And I think it's a big upgrade for Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan's gonna have a bounce back season this year.
Yeah, I mean it's huge going from like league average or 20th in red zone efficiency to someone who, that's going to be a big deal for Calvin Ridley. It's going to be a big deal for Kyle Pitts, who's going as tight end 4, and it can possibly be a huge deal for Mike Davis, who Hayden knows I'm a big fan of. So
I want to look at Dante's team because he snaked me like 5 times. So he got Eckler, Ridley, Lockett. Man, he really went after receiver early. So he went after receiver early and still got Eckler, Javonte, Damian Harris at running back, Kyler's his quarterback,
Mooney, and Tunyon. This is a pretty good team. It's a pretty good team here.
It's a pretty good team. What a dick.
So his two quarterbacks.
He just zeroed in on like all the Bears, all the guys that I love. You took Jacoby Myers from me.
It's a pretty good team.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's a really good.
Sammy Watkins.
You took the Sammy Watkins bait, though. All right.
He wins. And Darrington Evans.
Xavier Jones, too.
Can you go scroll back to the top? Because when you're at the 112, Hayden talked about this at the start. And it's kind of something that I'm kind of drifting towards more and more, because there's that glut of running backs that kind of can be ranked together, I would say, after Ezekiel Elliott of Nick Chubb, Eckler, Saquon, Gibson, Najee Harris, CEH. And so getting one of those that you believe in most, and heck, Austin Eckler with this change in just the total restructure of the Chargers, and tag him with a top end wide receiver too, one of those top 5 guys, that gives me a really, really comfortable start in these drafts. And it can be uncomfortable to draft at the turn, but that makes me feel really good typically.
I mean, you can just do whatever you want for the rest of the draft once you have that start.
Yeah, you just get freedom. So I think Austin here is at 106 if I read chat correctly. So he did Aaron Jones, solid. DK, solid. Jonathan Taylor, solid, right down the middle of the fairway. Cooper, Anderson. I feel like this is appropriate value for all these guys. Might be a little bit early for Debo for me, but that's, a lot of people love Debo. Fuller. Oh, you got Fuller and Waddle. That's good.
Love that.
With
And then
Tua.
Tua, and then the Tua stack a little bit later on, which makes total sense.
Oh,
Again,
yeah,
if
that's
you're
really
investing in
good.
both the wide receivers, then most likely the quarterback selection makes a ton of sense. And look, it might feel weird when you scroll back up that he hit 5 straight wide receivers and 6 in 7 rounds. I mean, this. If you try to rank the top, 20 wide receivers, Brett, just in football right now, you're going to come up with a list of 40 names. I mean, it's such a great position. It's the best position in the NFL at the moment. And that's just such a sweet spot. I mean, look at all those names. And Robbie Anderson, Debo Samuel, Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle. Each brings a little bit something, and there's some overlap too in their skill set. And, spiked weeks, big performances, they all are capable of doing that too.
I was a little bit worried about running back, but him getting Pollard here in the 11th is good.
Yeah.
Because Pollard, I think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split than people think. Maybe like 60-40 at most. But this whole Zeke's getting all the carries thing, Pollard's really, really good. They're gonna feed him just as much as they feed Zeke. If only just to keep Zeke healthy, he's not, even though he's young, he's not a spring chicken anymore in running back years. He's got a lot of carries on him. I feel like they're going to siphon off a lot of touches to Tony to keep Zeke fresh. Paris Campbell, I don't know what to think about Paris Campbell because of that quarterback situation. I'm so all over the place on the Colts.
Well, the problem with Paris Campbell is Carson Wentz refuses to throw the passes that Paris Campbell traditionally runs. And if T.Y. Hilton's a deep threat, if Michael Pittman could be a true X receiver, I feel like it's going to be tough for Paris Campbell to do enough on these shallow drag routes that Carson Wentz just never, ever throws. Yeah,
because his eyes just stay locked down the field for so long. By the time he comes off of it, Campbell's already waiting at the boundary and there's a DB on him. I understand that frustration. But if Phil Rivers comes out of retirement.
Yeah, he would have went off last year.
We're locked and loaded.
Yep.
Got MVS. I'm okay with that. Hooper that late's really nice. And then Travis Fulgham. Man, this dude took a shitload of receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
There is something to it, Brett. And I keep hearing you say I'd feel a little bit nervous at the running back spot if I just took Aaron Jones and then Jonathan Taylor and then waited to get Tony Pollard. I think at times at running back, especially in best ball, when you're not just doing one, it's not just your home season league that's managed and those types of things. Since you can enter the puppy just for $5 or just do a whole bunch of best ball mania 2s, taking those 2, possible workhorse feature running backs and then just banking on and drafting you're going to be right. There is something to that. And then just loading up at wide receiver. And look, if one of those guys goes down, maybe you have some running back insurance later on, with a Tony Pollard or Alexander Madison or Darrington Evans that can step up. But I think you kind of have to be fragile at times at the running back position.
At least, for as many best ball drafts as I've done, I feel like I learn a new thing every single time I do one because it's the Wild West right now in terms of format. People just throw shit at the wall and see what works. Yeah. Because I've done best ball leagues before, but none specifically with the underdog format.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wild what some people do. The weirdest draft I saw, somebody started with 7 straight receivers. They didn't even touch running back until the 8th round.
It's there.
And I thought they were nuts. But after looking at this, I'm well, God, maybe it's not that bad of an idea.
And then there's the opposite of I've seen people or theorize possibly if you start with running back, then you don't take another one and you just try to hope that those 2 hit, or even just go with 3 and then that's it. So
my favorite strategy is running back, then wait until you get Alexander Madison and Darrington Evans, and that's it. And you're just hoping that the 2 running backs you draft in the first 2 rounds stay healthy. Because if that is the case, now all of a sudden, the round 3 through round 10, you've been piling all those wide receivers. If one of your running backs goes down, you're totally screwed. But if they stay healthy, you're definitely going to be competing.
How do you see handcuffs in underdog? Because this is something that I've been back and forth on of like, is it worth it to take a handcuff?
No,
Not your own.
not your own. Because look, if you're using an underdog only 18 rounds, which sounds like a lot in comparison, but again, remember that in a typical season-long managed league, you would then be able to drop that player or put him on an IR spot if he is going to, miss extended amount of time. What Hayden and I keep advocating for people to do, instead of investing in just one backfield with two players at the spot, instead, like, spread your wings, like spread your roots, and get the lead workhorse in one, like an Austin Eckler, and then get an Alexander Madison instead of having Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison, because then if Dalvin goes down, then boom, you basically have a stranglehold on two entire backfields, on two offenses that we absolutely believe in.
That makes sense.
I think Alexander Madison is my favorite player on Underdog right now, where he's being drafted, just because if Dalvin Cook stays healthy the whole year, it's going to be tough to beat those Dalvin Cook teams because he's just such a huge advantage. But if Dalvin Cook gets injured, all of a sudden that team's been eliminated, and all of a sudden you have Alexander Madison, who could be 80% Dalvin Cook and be somebody that's going to be in your starting lineup. So he's like not being drafted until like after the 150th pick. So I really love Alexander.
But 80% of Dalvin is still an RB1.
Oh yeah, like exactly. Yep.
For everybody watching, thank you. We've had like between 800 to 1,000 people this whole time, which is insane. Clearly, people are ready for fantasy to start. Remember, I do have my fantasy rankings, my position ranking videos coming out Wednesday through Saturday of this week. So tomorrow, it's the receiver video coming out, then it's running back, then it's tight end, then it's quarterback. So I have a lot of stuff coming out basically for the rest of the week. If you want just all of my rankings in Excel format, hit that link in the description below. Doesn't matter what you pay for them. It can be as low as $1. You get all my fantasy rankings. PPR came out first, standard scoring coming out later this week, and then it'll be half PPR. And then remember, if you want to play an underdog and you want to maybe make some money on best ball this year, a lot of money, $3.5 million prize pool is going for that Best Ball Mania tournament. And if you use promo code Brett at that link, and I'm going to share it here. Yeah, you get $25 to play on Underdog. $25 extra dollars to use.
Let's pitch it here, Brett. All right, all of you, instead of eating at Chipotle, stop putting the guacamole on your freaking burrito.
Leave Chipotle out of this.
Look, just skip the guacamole one time and invest that into Underdog instead, and you get $25 for free. Then you can turn that $25 in Best Ball Mania 2 into $1 million when you get first place, or $250,000 if you get second place, or $175,000 if you get third place. And then you can buy all the freaking guacamole you could ever eat in your life. So skip it one time, invest it into Underdog, use promo code Brett, and get a free $25 instead. That's what we're doing here.
I will not tolerate Chipotle slander on this channel, sir.
I'm not. No. It's great. All I'm saying is turn, $5 into a lifetime of endless supply. You can have an IV of guacamole if you win, Best Ball Mania 2. That's what we can do.
Oh God. Don't tell my wife that those exist. She would actually get one.
Brett, a couple summers ago, Chipotle had a reward system where they're giving out free burritos. And if you ate enough burritos over the summer, you got free catering. That was me. I ate like 40 burritos from Chipotle in one summer.
Oh my God.
The reward system was outrageous. So
no wonder you looked a little different a couple of years ago.
We are pro Chipotle on this podcast.
No wonder you looked a little different. Yeah, Brett, we really appreciate you having us on, man. If anyone wants just like a little more, fantasy content, because it is that time of the year. It's that hot best ball summer keeps rolling on. Hayden and I are at the Underdog Football Show. Actually, this Saturday, there are 10 preseason games going on, Brett? Hayden and I are going to be on we're going to do a watch along around like 6:30, 7 o'clock Eastern with a bunch of those preseason games going on. So if you guys are around and need some company on your second screen, Hayden and I are going to try something out and do a little watch along on Saturday too. So
yeah, that sounds great, especially because we finally get preseason again for once.
Yes.
Which we didn't realize how valuable that was for fantasy until we didn't have it. So my God, I'm very happy that we have preseason back. I know the games aren't great football, but they're very informative for our purposes. And I can guarantee you that the rankings that I just posted today are going to be wildly different by this time next week, because we're going to have a whole bunch of games under our belt. And all we can do is pray for no injuries, and we'll see where we're at. But I appreciate everybody being here tonight. I will be doing a lot more of these streams, by the way. So if you didn't get into this draft, just know I'm going to be doing a lot more drafts. All these little, $5 drafts. Not trying to take all your money. I'm just trying to take a little bit of your money so that I can buy more Chipotle for myself. So I will be doing a lot more of these. And I'll probably have Josh and Hayden with me, because it's kind of nice to have the company and people that can give me advice and roast me and keep chat alive. But yeah, thank you everybody for stopping by. Keep an eye out on the channel tomorrow when I have my wide receiver sleepers video coming out. And I will see you here in about 12 hours.